Derek Foster.
Mayor Bookmeyer, City Council members, Lionel Foster. Since I'm the Director of the Mason City Human Rights Commission, I will give my address at City Hall, 10 First Street Northwest. Regrettably, I have to address the council tonight concerning the appointments of members to the Mason City Human Rights Commission. I certainly want to thank Councilmember Nelson for bringing this matter forward, because the commission at this point, as I stand here, is at a critical moment. We are down 3 people, 3 members on our commission, and this week when we attempted to address a case that is now headed for district court, possibly, we don't have enough members to make a final decision that it can go to district court, or it can be resolved. And I also want to say that my comments here are not an attack on Mayor Bookmeyer. It's the process that's being implemented. And I want to inform the council that since Mayor Bookmeyer took office in 2010, he has never come to the commission to explain his new reappointment selection process. That said, I want to give you some history of the Mason City Human Rights Commission, which has been in existence since 1964. In the 47 years this commission has been serving citizens in and around Mason City, it has done so professionally and with pride. In 1972, when I became affiliated with the commission, they had established standards by which to judge applicants who sought to become members. The commission, and that's probably some 37, 38 years ago. Anyone who became a commissioner had to have integrity, fairness, honesty, and soundness of character. Even today, every commissioner must demonstrate impartiality, which means the absence of bias or prejudice in favor of or against particular parties or class of parties. They must also maintain an open mind in considering issues that come before the commission. The commission screens the individuals who apply for membership on the commission. They do so very diligently because they don't want to, as a quasi-judicial body, as the mayor has rightly recognized, have to be faced with a court action that they are biased and prejudiced against any party that comes before them. Now, Iowa law passed in 1990 requires the commission to, and this is a quote, to protect the rights of the citizens of this state secured by the Iowa Civil Rights Act. That's not of the city of Mason City, it's of this state. And if anyone cares to know the site of that, I can certainly give it to you. You can give it, I give it to your city attorney, and he can research it. Iowa law also makes clear that the commission is, quote, an independent local agency, which means freedom from political influence or control. I respectfully suggest that today the commission's independence from political control is being undermined by the current reappointment process Mayor Bookmeyer is forcing upon the commission. Before I go further, though, I want to address the cause of the uproar over a statement Mayor Bookmeyer made to our chair, Kathy Lockley, on January the 6th, as has been recognized in a memo that he has issued not only to the commission, but also to some of you council members. As you know, the commission by law can neither condone nor sanction any selection preference which implicates age. According to Mayor Bookmeyer's own words on January 25th, and I quote this, and I don't think I need to have a witness to verify it because it's his own words. I only communicated to the chair of the commission that we have lost a significant population over the last 2 decades and the median age has risen significantly. I told her that it had been a challenge to find young leaders to freshen up appointments to boards and commissions, and that when I did, I want to get them involved. Well, you know, the commission has been soliciting all individuals of all ages, of all races, of all backgrounds.
Your time has expired.
Please, Mayor, point of order.
Point
We're hearing from the director of a commission.
I understand that. This is a public forum, and there's 5 minutes allowed.
Let him finish. I let him finish. I think the council has something to say about this.
You will have your time, sir. You will. You will have your time. Your time's expired. Anybody else?
Good evening, I'm Kathy Lockley. I'm Chair of the Human Rights Commission. My address is 1444 East State, Mason City, Iowa. I'd just also like to take you through a little bit of history about civil rights. Since the beginning history of our country, civil rights were the ideals that this country was founded upon. They were based on the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the United States of America, and the Declaration of Independence. These are rights that constitute free and equal citizenship. As time has evolved, so have civil rights regulations. Through a variety of civil rights enactments, the laws apply to persons of all ages in one form or another, as well as race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, or veteran status. It is an important distinction to know that civil rights are not special rights. They are simply rights that govern each and every one of us. Civil rights regulations are the foundation where citizens have the ultimate right to stand up for themselves. We have the right to freedom of speech and responsibility to celebrate the differences this country was founded upon. Likewise, we have an obligation to hear our fellow Americans and not marginalize one another. We are entitled to all of our rights, no matter who we are. We can't be deprived of these rights without due process. The Human Rights Commission of Mason City is a component of the due process, and it provides a service to all of the people in our community and all of the people in Cerro Gordo County. The Human Rights Commission is good for everyone. It is the lowest cost alternative to resolving discrimination matters and issues that arise. As long as bigotry and discrimination exist, there will be attorneys to defend plaintiffs and agencies to call upon so that citizens can be heard. Hundreds of citizens of Cerro Gordo County walk through the doors or call the Mason City Human Rights Commission on an annual basis. Some are rerouted to the proper agency. Some matters, no matter how painful, do not arise to the level of discrimination, and others meet a prima facie showing that discrimination has occurred. These cases are heard by the board members to determine if probable or no probable cause to believe discrimination has occurred. In today's highly sophisticated times and as educated as we have become as a nation, it is amazing to see the boxes and stereotyping that Americans can put each other in. The Mason City Human Rights Board consists of 9 people who are diverse and highly specialized volunteer board. We are a working board requiring specialized skills and training. We conduct all of the hearings and conciliations ourselves. A turnover of 1/3 of our board every 3 years would be a detriment to the productivity and integrity of the board. It is important to both claimants and respondents to have their cases completed timely, and we work very diligently to ensure that that happens. And we've also closed more cases last year than we took in. As a board, we've developed a method of transitioning people onto the board to maintain diversity balance and train members for future board openings. This system has worked well to maintain continuity on the board. There's no reason for reappointments of our current board members to be held hostage. Further delays of these appointments are disruptive to our important work for our citizens. 2 members are currently up for reappointment. 1 member indeed does live in a different county, however specializes in disability discrimination in her work in Mason City. In our opinion, the ordinance does not specifically prohibit that. Also, another board member who is currently questioned is a Mason City resident who resides in the county. This member owns and pays property tax on 3 homes in Mason City. We have recognized an error in the ordinance that determines how board members are reinstated or selected, and we will be addressing this matter and we will come forward to the council with a potential amendment in the very near future. As I've said, the Human Rights Agency is good for everyone. No matter the system, people will find a way to obtain due process. We're a unique board, a working volunteer board, and in the scope of the city's business, the overall budget, the activities of the Human Rights Commission have been steady, and the cost has been a very small piece of the total budget. At this time, our board is asking the council to move forward with the reappointments as the ordinance defines. The mayor needs to move swiftly to assist in replacing the vacancy of the board, as we are 2 months into these vacancies further disrupting our work. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Lockwood. Yes.
My name is Sandra Cervantes. I live at 1213 6th Street Southwest in Mason City, Iowa. I have been on the Human Rights Commission for 2 years. And the two people that just spoke here are phenomenal in the knowledge that they have on our civil rights. And I'm talking ours, all of ours, okay? I can't imagine coming in on a council and just saying, okay, here's 3 new people, this is what we're gonna do. It takes a long time to learn how this works. And I've been at it for 2 years, sitting back, watching these people, and it's amazing the knowledge that they have, and you should be proud of who they are, and that they're willing to take their time, especially Kathy, because it is voluntary to do this, okay? I spoke to the mayor the first Thursday of this month and asked him what his idea was on filling these, and he told me at this time he did not know what he was going to do and had not decided. It's been 2 months, been a long time wondering what is going to be done. I just know, as for myself, I would find it very disheartening to see people come in, especially 2 or 3 at one time, and take over for these people that have been on it for years. You're talking about people's lives here. You're not talking about taking a building and saying, are we going to tear it down or we're going to keep it? You're talking about people that are sitting here that are not being treated fairly, and you're talking about whether they're going to be able to get monetary benefits for being able to fight for what they deserve, okay? And I just know that, and when we're talking about, do we need a Human Rights Commission or don't we? I personally feel that when you look at somebody and they're thinking, okay, I have to go all the way to Des Moines to decide if they're going to take a case or not take a case, or if they're going to help me. In the beginning, you're gun-ho, it's like, okay, I can do this, but as time goes on, and you have to travel 2 hours there and 2 hours back, and then you have to decide, am I going to put bread on the table? And I told this to the commission when we had our last meeting. You're going to have to make a decision someday whether you're going to put food on the table for your kids, or you're going to have to drive all the way to Des Moines and fight for your rights because you were discriminated against, whether age, color, whatever. You know, we need this in Mason so that people that aren't able to do that have that. And it's not just the poor and those that don't have that get discriminated against. There are many people that do. So my personal opinion is, I think we need to get these things filled. You need to be careful how you do it, because you're not talking about buildings. You are talking about human lives here and what they deserve. And everybody deserves to have equal rights. Thank you.
Mr. Mills?
I'm Mike Cervantes, 1213 6 Southwest Mason City. And I want to give my 5 minutes to Lionel Foster if he wants it.
That's,
I can do that.
yeah, we don't.
It's my 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know, but we don't yield time, so
You know.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, it's my 5 minutes, okay? You give us 5 minutes, I give my 5 minutes to whoever I want, okay?
Yeah,
It's
I
my
appreciate
5 minutes.
I appreciate that. Mr. Spanish, you're welcome to address us for 5 minutes, but.
Okay,
we-
I'll
we
give
don't
my 5
yield.
minutes, I have a right to do that. Lionel.
Actually, you don't, so.
Well, I'm Carolyn Brosted, 734 North Carolina. I'm not on any of the committees. I'm not involved in human rights. I haven't ever gone to them. So I'm speaking, I hope, impartially, but I am passionate about human rights. I guess I'm having a really hard time understanding why we would even want to do away with this commission. It started last year, and I didn't understand it then, and I still don't understand it. Last year, when we talked about doing away with it or cutting the budget so much that they didn't hardly have a budget, I decided I really needed to find out the source. So I did go to Lionel, thinking I'd probably have to make an appointment and come back up, but lo and behold, I was able to walk into his office and talk to him right away. So I've asked some of the questions, and part of it was on financing. And I hope I'm correct in saying this. It's a federal program mandated, is that correct? No, it isn't, but it is federal. You get federal funds. Okay, and the majority of those funds are from the EOC and HUD. The part that Mason City pays, for the most part, is for salaries and benefits. That being the case, that's really a very small amount of what they get, and they don't get a lump sum. They get it in some cases per case. It's already been reiterated by several people that the human rights represents everybody. It doesn't matter, and I'm not going to go through the whole list, but it doesn't matter who you are. If you feel you are being discriminated against, this is the place to go. And no, I think most of us would not have the time, maybe couldn't get off work, have children at home, or not the money or resources to go to Des Moines. And I would venture to say, this is just a guess, but I would venture to say you can get things taken care of in Mason City in a way more timely fashion than you ever could by going to Des Moines. I can't, and Des Moines doesn't want all our cases. If they did, I don't think Mason City would have a Human Rights Commission to begin with. So I'm here to advocate that we don't have to talk about this anymore. Let's go ahead, do the applications. It's obvious from what I heard tonight that they need it. They need some of our budget. I'm willing to pay for it, just as I'm willing to pay for streets and all the other amenities I get from the city. So I hope this doesn't have to be a break in our community. Let's come together and get things done.
Thank you, Ms. Brosnack.
My name is Pat Steinford. I live at 304 3rd Street Northeast here in Mason City. Mayor Bookmeyer, I've lived here since 1957. I've been very active in many different things in Mason City, and I enjoy Mason City and I like it. I had considered maybe filling out an application for the Human Rights Commission, but after seeing the article in the paper and hearing the remarks that were made, I feel that being I'm retired and old, there's no sense for me to even bother. Thank you.
Point of order, Mayor. You know, if we're going to stick to time limits, I would expect that in the future that we stick to the time limits for everybody. We've had many presentations from architects on the Multi-Purpose Center, Environmental Stewardship Committee, even your own State of the City address was more than 15 minutes long. Personally, I'd like to hear Director Foster finish his comments.
I appreciate that, but
Otherwise, as I said, everybody who gets up and speaks. I'm going to adhere to the same time limit for everybody,
and I appreciate it.
which has not been the case in the past.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Point of order, Mayor.
Is there-
When you say we don't allow that, please don't include me. I'm more than happy to hear from anybody in the community. I'm elected to represent the people. That's the oath of office that I took. So when you say we, you should say me or I. Don't approve of that. Don't include me on your
Councilman
thing.
Weaver.
No, I want to finish one more
Councilman
thing.
Weaver, when I say
You know
we,
what?
I'm referring
I don't want
to
to
the
hear what you
rules
have to
that
say,
your
Mayor. Really, I
council
don't,
approved.
because we're in a terrible jam here. But I will tell you this to the public right now.
Make it-
I asked, I want all of you to confirm this. I asked in November, Scott, You first.
All right,
And you agreed to it, to meet with Mayor Bookmeyer to how we were gonna run the meetings in the council and our
Thank you,
business.
Councilman. Thank you.
We all agreed to having a meeting. Sure, you don't want this out, Mayor. We all agreed to have a meeting. But you know what? You talked individually, all of them,
Thank you.
out of having that meeting, because you knew how you wanted to run the, and all I wanted
Yeah,
to do was right for the
Councilman.
community, because you
Right.
ran on decorum, discipline, and diligence, which you certainly are trying to deliver, and it's disrupting the community, Mayor.
So you're saying that decorum and diligence are disrupting the community?
Your form of it, you ran on the Ds, the 3 Ds, and you left off the biggest D, democracy.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Wiggler.
Do I have to stand
All
up
right.
there to say I don't appreciate
You
you
can-
rolling
you're-
your eyes?
You're more than welcome to go to
Okay.
the public podium.
Peggy Viga, 1134 First Street Northeast. Mayor, Councilman, I'm here for the first time to watch what goes on in our community. You're our elected mayor, and you're standing up there, or sitting up there, rolling your eyes going, what does that show us people that live in this community? Why would we want to see
We starting to
anybody
get on
anything you
personal
say?
attacks here.
No, this isn't a personal attack,
Well,
Janet, and I'm speaking right now.
I really think it's a personal attack.
It is, so.
It isn't. I'm just saying, I was here for the first time tonight,
Can you-
and
do you have any
I'm
agenda-
observing.
do you have any
Now,
agenda
I
items
do
to
have
speak on?
something I want to say.
Okay.
I have had these guys help me. I had a discrimination case. I don't know what I would have done without them. That's all I want to say. I wouldn't have been able to drive to Des Moines and take off time. They did the work that was necessary. They stood behind me. They seen it through. Win or lose, it didn't matter. I had somebody to turn to help me. We do need them here in this town. That's all I have to say.
Appreciate that. All right, number 22, Councilmember Nelson requesting discussion on the appointments and reappointments to the Human Rights Commission. I'm just going to take a minute of mayoral privilege to respond to a few of the comments.
Make sure you start the timer, Mayor, point of order.
Actually, in code, Mr. Weaver, it makes it very specific that the mayor can address council anytime they choose, so I appreciate it.
I'll go on the record and dispute that somewhat.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. All right, I understand, Mr. Nelson, I read the comments, and you're correct. It's been a circus. And, you know, I've intentionally attempted not to embarrass this commission. I generally believe I'm being accused of having the audacity of doing my job. My policy on boards and commissions from day one has been the following. 1, they must be a resident of Mason City. 2, citizens can only serve on one body at a time. Before I make any appointments, I require applications detailing one's qualifications and interviews before I make a decision. The Human Rights Commission Code requires the mayor to appoint the commission to to appoint the commission then to consent, and then the council to approve Mason City residents to the commission. That makes scheduling and having your ducks in a row key. One would have thought that that would have been the way it worked, but the director did not come to my office until 2 months prior, or did not come to my office 2 months prior, like most directors and city liaisons do. This is what I've received from the commission to date. A memo dated 1 day before the deadline to put items on the agenda with the submission of 3 commissioner names that are already on the commission: Terry McCarthy, Kathy Gaines, and Karen Reese, with 2 years remaining on their term. Had I rubber stamped it, I wouldn't have heard the end of it from this council. After receiving no applications, I posted the position on the 10th of January and received no applications until January 26th. The submission and resubmission of 2 former commissioners who do not reside in Mason City, one of which resides in Winnebago County, both of whom should not have been appointed and approved initially according to our city code. The submission of another application from a resident of Clear Lake. That means that only one of the submission applications were valid residents of the city, were not already on the commission with unexpired terms, or were not already on another board or commission. I have not witnessed anything like this from any board or commission in my time as mayor. Mr. Nelson, the question I think we should ask is, do you approve the actions coming from the commission? Mr. Nelson, you and I have had a conversation, and council has received 2 memos detailing my thoughts on this issue. In all communications, I have made it clear that I value the commission, and I do. I don't intend to lobby for it to be dissolved. And I will appoint 3 new commissioners as soon as I have 3 applicants with mature judgment and temperament that add value to the commission. And I'm aggressively conducting my process as we speak. When I have my 3 appointees that are Mason City residents, I will present them to the commission for consent and council for approval according to Mason City Code. And Mr. Nelson also asked why the mayor singled out the Human Rights Commission about its financial information when he hasn't done that for any other board or commission. Citizens of Mason City, I believe in accountability and oversight. I do not believe the Human Rights Commission has had that much. The Human Rights Commission has not been singled out by myself. I evaluate the results of all our boards and commissions before making appointments. But yeah, this is different. As valuable as the Human Rights Commission is, I don't believe it's effectively serving our community well, or that the commission is honoring our citizens' tax dollars. From my perspective, there's 3 issues. Yeah, it did get my attention when I saw Human Rights ask for a 20% increase last year, and a 13% increase this year. I believe this is out of line with other city departments that are asked to trim their budgets. After further information, it became apparent that the commission has received average annual increases of over 6% for the last 35 years. There's no debate that's out of line with other city departments and other cities in the state. Mason City, in addition, Mason City's Human Rights Commission also far outpaces our peer communities, in alleging human rights violations. Make no mistake, all discrimination is unfair, but all things unfair are not discrimination. And however, there is no question that you are more likely to be accused of a human rights violation in Mason City than our peer cities. I believe the commission needs to reevaluate its process and focus on the cases that are most likely to bring a remedy for people who have been violated. It does no justice to the alleged victim or accused to have an extended case with no ability for remedy or conclusion. Given the numbers, Mason City's businesses and landlords are the most abusive in the state towards human rights issues. If it is, the commission members should be screaming from the rooftops about the trend of behavior in Mason City. I don't believe that to have merit. Lastly, I question the quality of work given the resources that have been provided to the commission. As of their last meeting, there was a 27-month backlog on employment cases alone. That's unacceptable for the accuser and the accused. Tonight, Mr. Nelson is upset with me, and I understand, but I haven't appointed commissioners for 5 weeks. How do you think people who haven't had a conclusion or remedy feel after 27 months of waiting? It's time that this commission has reformed its practice and started running the department more effectively. I believe our citizens deserve a commission that honors human rights, doesn't abuse the rights of others, and values our tax dollars. I'm not going to be rushed into appointing commissioners until I have the right people in place, and I'm aggressively doing so, and that is a commitment. So I appreciate it. Mr. Nelson, do you have a motion?
No, I have motion. Can I have comments?
Yeah.
Direction to your comments?
You have a motion here that you want to make?
No.
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Yeah, motion to discuss. Can I discuss?
We have this motion here that I approved for you.
Yes, motion to discuss, I believe.
Motion in support of filling current vacancies on the Human Rights Commission at time of matter. Is that the motion you'd like to make?
No, slow down, Mayor, would you please? That's not on my agenda, is it?
No.
Well, then, educate me. What's your motion, man? Way too much control here, my friend.
Well,
Mr. Nelson,
Can I
Mr.
speak,
Nelson,
Mayor?
this is the note that you put in my box about the motion you intended to make.
A point of order, Mayor, please.
Mr. Weaver.
I have
Very
a motion to
argumentative. You need to
discuss.
tone your voice down a little bit, Mayor,
Can-
and your blood pressure.
We don't discuss just for
Kind of
discussing.
violating the diligence.
We've got a motion here.
You gotta make
Discussion.
discussions. No motion.
You've got a motion here. If you want to make the motion, you can get a second, you can have discussion.
Okay, I'd like to
Now,
make a motion to discuss.
Point of order, please. On our agenda, you cannot present an agenda item tonight. It has to have 24-hour notice. If you want to get the city attorney up here to the microphone, I'm sure he'll validate what I'm saying.
Mr. City Attorney.
So whatever motion that showed up in anybody, please, Mayor, whatever
City
motion that
Attorney,
had
would you like to address
any
Mr.
box,
Weaver's concerns?
on our agenda, it says 22, Councilmember Nelson requesting discussion on the appointments and reappointments to the Human Rights Commission. I made the motion. I made the motion for a discussion. I've made a
There's
motion.
no
I'm looking for
motion
a
for
second.
discussion.
I made the motion.
Point of order.
Well,
Mayor, you commented for minutes
It's,
with no motion on the floor.
7
You
minutes.
didn't even set the timer.
is there a motion?
I made the motion for
I
discussion.
just seconded, but.
Seconded it.
Okay. All right, Mr. Nelson, the motion is in support of filling the current vacancies on the Human Rights Commission at time of
That's not my motion at all.
I haven't recognized your motion, Councilman Weaver. Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Well, before I begin, I want to thank people, the 4 or 5 people that got up and spoke on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. I value your opinions and your comments. Also, the passion that you all spoke. You're very committed and passionate for the human, as I do. You know, Mayor, the list was provided you 18 days ago. You know, the people of Egypt overthrew their government in 18 days. You can't even nominate to run this in 18 days. It's your own government. So you rattle off a lot of things that I couldn't write down and react to. But I appreciate a written report that you so verbalized to us, so I can react to some of your questions. Because I only got a few here. You talk a little fast for me. Remember, I'm old. And I know how it feels towards it. Now, as far as oversight, I think that's a personal insult to our Human Rights Commission about the financial oversight. Boy, talk about accusing. You're accused the commission of a lot of things here. Comparing our commission to other cities' commission, oranges and apples. I think we went through this last year when there was an all-out effort by you and another county to eliminate the Human Rights Department. I thought that was over, but I see we're at it again. We're at it again. When is it going to end? Yeah, I don't buy your reasoning for only emphasizing and asking for the financial report for the last, 1984 or 74. You singled out one department, a commission, and no other city department. You know, let me say something here. Back several years ago, early in my council, too bad John Skipper isn't here to verify it. The mayor didn't reappoint 2 people to a city board. Do you know why he didn't? He was being vindictive. Now I hope, Mayor, you're not being vindictive to the Human Rights Committee. It indicates to me, but that's my own opinion. But I won't mention the mayor did that, but I did speak publicly at that time that the mayor was being vindictive, and of course there wasn't much argument, you know damn well he was. But I would like to report from you on what you read tonight, so I think that the commission, Lionel Foster, could react to some of your comments. I think it's only fair that we have it in writing. I'd appreciate it, Mayor. Now, there was an issue about age. You know, if age is a factor, and it was brought up, you denied what you exactly said, but I heard it too. If age is a consideration in your nomination for candidates being brought forward by the Human Rights Director, let's reflect on the last 13 months. Approximately 36 appointments and reappointments have been brought forward by you, Mayor, and approved by the City Council to serve on boards, committees, and commissions. Of the approximately 36, approximately 28 were reappointments, and approximately 8 new appointments. I wonder, when the application was brought forward, how soon they got on the docket to be approved. I wonder about that. You know, age factor. Best I could, I looked over the list of all the people that were reappointed and nominated to serve. I know a lot of them. At least half of them, were over the 40. Now, I don't know what young is to you, and I don't know what old is to you, but it seems like the paper kind of under 40 group they recognize. So I guess maybe arbitrarily, maybe it's 40, I don't know. But what is young and what is old? You know, what is it? I can't have fresh, new ideas because I've got age? Ridiculous. Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate that written report.
Hey, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else? Ms. Weaver?
I'll defer to Janet Silver. She had her hand up first.
Ms. Silver?
Well, I just had a couple of questions here on these appointments. And, I'm reading here that they're for like 3 years. And one of the appointments, their original appointment date was January 2009, and they're coming up here for reappointment 2009 plus 3 is January of 2012, is where I went to school and living that. And then the next one, and that particular person doesn't live in Mason City, and I'm still trying to figure out why our city code, what? Mason City contributes money to the Human Rights Commission. Does the Northwood or Kensett or Manly or Fertile, I mean, all these people utilize these services, but yet I never see any money coming in from these other communities. And, you know, we don't go to their towns and, you know, demand isn't quite the right word, but we don't put in applications to be on their boards and commissions, so I'm confused as to why people from other communities are trying to come into Mason City and be on our boards and commissions. I don't know, I don't understand that. And yes, someone might have a specialty with a certain area, but that, bottom line again still is that, you know, you're going into a different community and you have to abide by their ordinances and codes. And the prior council put these codes out here and ordinances. We didn't do it. We're just trying to straighten up some of the things here that have maybe not gone quite right in the past, and I guess I'm not quite sure why we're getting chastised for that. But again, the second appointment here, they were originally appointed in January of 04, 3 years on that's January of 07, 3 years on that's January of 10, which was last year, and then they're not up again until January of 2013. Not quite sure why the second person's on there. I don't understand why we're starting to micromanage the mayoral duties here. He took an oath of office, just like we did as council people, to uphold the duties as mayor, and it seems like we're starting to step on toes of all the boards and commissions, whether it be the Park Board or Human Rights Commission or whatever. We as city council are getting involved. These people were elected to positions, or they put in applications and were put on these boards and commissions. We're always stepping on toes and getting in where we don't belong. I think we need to step back and take our look at our city council duties and let the other folks do their jobs. This is just getting totally, totally ridiculous. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I personally put in an app to be on the Human Rights Commission board years ago. Never even got an interview, so I guess I'm not good enough for that position. I guess it doesn't matter that I was 40 or 50, but I mean, it just didn't matter. It's my, I'm being personal against myself, whatever. You know, I was good enough to be CASA, I'm good enough to be mentor, but I guess I wasn't good enough to be on that board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Wheaton.
Well, just to let you help you out and feel a little better, Janet. I put many applications in. My preference was planning and zoning for over 12 years. I tried to get on the board, and I was just relegated to sit in the back of the room. But I never had an interview. And I actually said I'd be willing to test against my other fellow applicants, but they didn't go anywhere either. So it is a, you know, I got two comments I want to make, actually three. One, I want to say, Lionel Foster, I appreciate all your hard work in the commission, and we have another listening post here after this meeting's over with. If you have 5 more minutes, I'd like to hear you give the rest of your report, then I would be, and anybody else who wants to talk, that's 5 minutes after this meeting. And I'm going to also have something to say there too, because I don't want to be too nasty here right now during the two things I do want to say is this. You know, Mayor, somebody must have pinched you a lot when you were younger. There's no question about it, and I mean that. And the second thing I want to say is, you know, I just can't say it, but you do, from tonight, owe way more apologies than you did before. And pride is an awful thing to have, young man.
Hey, Councilman Weaver. Anybody else? Ms. Rickey?
I guess what I'd like to say is, I'm listening to the people that got up and spoke, Ms. Steinford, even Mrs. Girk. I would implore you to sign up for these boards and commissions. I don't want to make age an issue, but I would implore anybody in Mason City to sign up for any boards and commissions, no matter age, race, or whatever it may be. I think one of the best things we can do as citizens of our city is become actively involved and try and make Mason City a better place to live. And that's one thing I would like to see. So that's one reason I ran for council. and try to improve Mason City. I'm sure some people don't feel that way, but I'm trying to do the best job I can. And the other one thing I would like to say is obviously there's a big controversy here. I would hope that our director, Lionel Foster, the mayor, we could communicate, get on the same page, work together, and try and get this issue resolved. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Hinkle. Max? Ms. Cronquist.
I think it's all too easy sometimes to forget that once words are shared, whether they're verbalized or put down in writing, once they're out there, they can't be taken back. And I have many times fallen victim to my own tongue, and I hope I don't do that this evening. I've been troubled since Friday when the packet came out on how best to handle this evening. In fact, I sat down Sunday afternoon and I wrote for 3 hours. That's usually what I do, is I write. I get my feelings down on paper. And I had every intention of updating my website. That's one of the tools I use to communicate. However, after editing what I initially wrote about a dozen times, 3 of which came after my wife cut about 40% of what I initially wrote, I wasn't so sure that was a good idea. I do think I have it to a point where it's not as volatile as it was, and my intention is later on this evening to go ahead and update. And so I don't really think I have anything to offer at this point in time that's going to certainly change votes. I'll put my thoughts up on my website. If you're interested, you can go read it. And if you're not, I'm not wasting your time with that. But there are some things that I do want to share that are maybe at least tangentially related. You know, one of the things that bothers me is the motion that I had understood we were going to have on the table tonight was that we fill the vacancies in a timely manner. And I'm not really sure what a timely manner means. And so that's a little bit nebulous to me. As I've thought about this since Friday, it seems, and as I've listened to people tonight, both from up here and from out here, it seems to me that the issue is more about power and control than it is about filling vacancies. And I think that knife cuts both ways, and I think there's a lot of room for a lot of people to work on that. One thing I do want to share, and this is something that I've been wrestling with for about 8 months now. On June 15th of 2010, exactly 8 months ago tonight, Max and I stood out in the Nyack parking lot, and we talked until 10:45, clearing the air on a number of things that bothered both of us. And I think we had a pretty good meeting of the minds. That evening, as we stood there talking, he told me why he changed his position on his proposition last year that we cut the Human Rights Department by $50,000. And based on an agreement that he and I had, I also agreed that at his request, I would keep that between the two of us. The issue that I have is his explanation was plausible. And at that time, he never mentioned a ruse. I read about a ruse for the first time in the newspaper, I think, in the last day or two. I've really got two problems at this point in time. One is, I don't know if what he told me is the truth. And so I'm very hesitant to speak it, because if I do and it's not the truth, people will get hurt. I do know that that evening when we talked, he certainly wanted me to believe that what he was telling me was the truth. And so the other problem that I have is that I don't know if by honoring the confidence that Max and I have, I'm doing a disservice to the community, because if indeed what he told me is true, it's pretty bad. So for 8 months, I've wrestled with this moral dilemma that I have. I think the best course of action at this point in time would be for Max to share with the community what he told me that evening, whether it's true or not. That would relieve me, at least, of the moral dilemma that I have. In any event, I believe that the issue is more about what I learned that night than it is about filling board commissions. And again, I think it goes back to power. You know, the conversation as people came to the podium tonight morphed somewhat. I heard about an effort to wipe out the Human Rights Commission. That's never been on the table, at least not that I recall. There was discussion about changing the roles and responsibilities of the department, but there was never any talk. In fact, I believe we're legally required a community this size to have a commission. That's my understanding anyway. Never been any talk to do away with the commission. And financing hasn't been an issue for a year now. We've We called tonight for the public hearing on March 1st, and financing of the Human Rights Department was not a budget issue this year. So I'm really struggling to understand why an issue that I thought was put to rest a year ago has resurfaced as an issue here in the last several weeks. And I think it's being used as a tool, again, for power and for things that don't have anything to do really with filling vacancies. But, you know, we all know that some of us up here have to have the last word. And one thing I'm not going to do is get into a tit for tat tonight. And I've pretty much said my piece at this point. Whatever is said from this point on, I'm done speaking on this issue for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Marquez. Well, the motion is support of filling the current vacancies in the Human Rights Commission in a timely manner. So, clerk, call the roll.
Nelson.
You want to repeat that again?
The motion is in support of filling the current vacancies on the Human Rights Commission in a timely manner.
Nelson.
What is timely? You describe timely?
That's the word that's here.
I don't know what, it's on our agenda, it doesn't say time, does it say timely manner?
Mayor, I have a comment.
How can you read a motion that has not been advertised 24, again, your city attorney sitting back there.
Go ahead. Well, timely manner to me is this, and I'd like to address that. Mayor, you're at City Hall almost every day, most of the day. Director Foster's at City Hall every work day. Timely manner to me is get together and get this on the next agenda and be done with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like a clarification from our city attorney, please.
Yeah, we'll get that
piece of paper right here, please.
You want to have a response? Go ahead, Mr. Attorney.
Our advertised agenda says number 22, Councilmember Nelson requesting discussion on appointments and reappointments to the Human Rights Commission. You're telling me now that our agenda is, the motion before us is to support filling the current vacancies on the Human Rights Commission in a timely manner. I've never seen this motion, and it's not, it's not in my packet. It hasn't been advertised 24 hours in advance so that the people have a reasonable idea of what we're doing here. You know, that's what the transparency and the sunshine laws are. So I'm not sure what you're trying to cram down our throats, Mayor, honestly, to be honest with you.
Well, I think, Mayor, council members, I think the motion in no way, there's no binding attribute to it. It's just basically council saying we want to get these positions filled.
Well, now that's contrary to what you've told us before, Mr. Meyer. You said that the posted agenda, we have to stick to that posted agenda in a closest we can. 22 says Councilmember Nelson requesting discussion on appointments and reappointments to Human Rights Commission. It doesn't say that the motion would be in a timely fashion. Now that's a legitimate concern and question that I have too. What is a timely fashion?
Could I amend the motion?
So I'm just saying, I'm asking you for the legalese of it. Now you've got a wide swath here. There has been a couple instances in the last year where we were out of order with it because the people didn't really have your words, a good understanding of what was before the council. So now tonight you're saying we do have that latitude. I want to reconfirm something here. Mr. Meyer, city attorney, you work for the council members. You're our employee. You don't work solely and only individually for us. You don't work solely and only for the mayor of Mason City. You work as us as a body here together. I don't think any one of us can direct you to do anything. That's the good thing about the democracy. So I don't understand what Mayor Bookmeyer is by pushing this agenda, this motion here, but I haven't, this is the first I've seen it tonight. So I guess there's a little lack of sunshine in the rules here. I don't understand it. Now, if you want to tell me another thing, then I'll be more than happy to incorporate that the rest of my year here that I have and other motions that are made. We have some latitude.
Mr. Weaver, let me understand your question. Your feeling is the motion is not pertinent to the agenda item?
That motion right there, I've never seen before till tonight. I haven't had an opportunity to even study that motion. I just saw it from Janet Stolberg less than 1 minute ago. That's the first time I saw it.
So you're saying by you're violating open...
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. If you're working for Mayor Bookmeyer, that's fine. I'm just saying, and I don't care whose memo it is. Mr. Bookmeyer's pushing that memo. What I'm saying is we have it on the agenda item here. And by law, we have to post our agenda so people have an idea of what we're going to be discussing. So I don't understand where that's being shoved down our throats.
Can I just All right, Mayor, I
Thank you,
just make
Mr.
a
Mayor.
comment about Max.
Mr. Nelson on the response.
Max, here's the problem. I was informed Thursday, that and not directed by the mayor, by another source, that he wasn't going to allow the wording as you have in your packet. I'd have to make a motion out of it. So I went through, I was not gonna do, you gotta make a motion. Yeah. On January 10th, 2010, on March 23rd, 2010, in March 6th, 2010, discussion of a specific subject was on the agendas. All of a sudden, mine would not be accepted unless I made a motion. So we revised it to read motion for da-da-da. That's how this all got confusing.
Mr. Marshall.
I'd like to move to amend the motion to be, what's it saying? I want to move it to the 1st of March, which is 14 days after today, which is 4 days short of how Egypt overthrew their government. And it seems to me we should be able to do it. So I would like to amend it to be the 1st of March, the next council meeting.
And what would we be doing the 1st of March?
Appointing the commissioners. Whatever it takes to get them on the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
You want, no. You want to read that motion to us now?
The motion is in support of filling the current vacancies on the Human Rights Commission and have those commission member names be presented at the first meeting in March, would be March 1st.
So now we are leaving out the timely fashion. So March 1st is a dead, well, that's, must be okay with the city attorney then.
Clerk call the roll.
4 days short.
Okay.
Oh, you want to do a discussion?
The amendment?
Well, let's have a full discussion. Who wants discussion?
I have a question.
Hey, the timers are not moving there.
Mr. Hickey?
Now, with this motion, and I don't know the code, I wanna, Mr. Meyer, I don't know the code, and there's a discussion brought up tonight about these have to be citizens of Mason City, residents of Mason City. Is that true?
The mayor received a memo from Director Foster, I think it was late January, about residency. I reviewed the code, which references groups in the city. I did make a phone call to the site, the person that was cited by Mr. Foster to discuss. Couldn't quite, for the memo wasn't completely direct as to I could tell exactly what she was trying to say. And out of respect for her, I just want to make sure this is what she's recommending. From the discussion, basically residency is not a discriminatory factor. The way I read it, when this was drafted in '96, the words in the city has some significance. In my opinion, it does mean people in the city, which would mean residents. If the council chooses to change that, it's an ordinance. If they want to say 3 of the members can be outside the county, they have the right to do that. And that's what I put in the memo, which I believe everybody got a copy of, that I did on February 2nd. My interpretation right now isn't near as broad as what's been referenced before. It's that it should be a resident in the city according to the code. This group can change at any time they choose to.
And I'm fine with that. The one issue I do have is if we do decide to change it or go outside of the city or the county or whatever, we are the sole funding source other than federal. Is that correct? Have we looked at going to the county supervisors, Clear Lake, anybody else, if we are going to go outside the city and have them help out the commission as well?
You want me to get up there now?
Sure.
Yes, and the commission will go and talk with the county again. We talked with them about 7 or 8 years ago about it, and there was some problems as it relates to Clear Lake, because Clear Lake is an independent, they're a corporation, and so the county supervisors could not commit the city of Clear Lake to any full sort of funding. But we looked at that as we've looked at all the other funding sources throughout the country.
Okay.
Let me just say this real quick. I disagree with Mr. Meyer. His opinion is just as good as mine. The person who can really interpret that statute is a judge. Now, it says in the city. It doesn't say they have to be a resident of the city. he knows as a lawyer that the interpretation of the statute is a clear wording of the statute. There's no, has to be a resident of the city of Mason City. One more point. We do have a applicant that owns 3 properties in Mason City. Now, are we saying this taxpayer in Mason City can't be on the commission? But I'll address some of these other ones, and Mr. Meyer's comments up there, Mr. Bookmeyer's comments up there after the session is over.
And I appreciate that. I didn't write the code. Again, I don't know the code.
Mr. Meyer was involved when we worked.
My other question would be, because I still got a minute 35, and I very rarely use my time as it is anyway. My other question would be, is regionalization seems to be a big thing, whether it's with the corridor, I'm on the CVB board, Visit Mason City, we've talked about regionalization. Have we possibly even looked at regionalization as far as your commission goes as well, and involving possibly Floyd County, Worth County, Hancock County? And I don't know if there's a good answer or not, I'm just curious.
Yes, there's I have a bill that I drafted, and it's down with the representatives in Des Moines, whether they're going to get to it this year or not. They took it up last year, at least a couple of the lawmakers, and it didn't get out of committee. I don't know if even if it went to committee, but it's still down there, and I'm going to be talking to them again. So we have been looking at regionalization for quite some time, and the regionalization would draw in other financial assistance from other communities.
Point of order, Mayor. Funding of the human rights has nothing to do with the agenda item tonight.
No, it's true.
Totally out of order.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do you have any other questions before we go on?
I thought this was, it started out as discussion.
Of appointment stuff. Clearly appointments.
Well, this is related to appointments.
I think Councilman Hickey's comments have been very valid. And we've had interest from our director too about it.
Go ahead, you have 25 seconds remaining. Go ahead.
No, I'll let somebody else.
All right, go ahead. Anybody else?
Ms. Weaver.
I just would want to say, Travis, Councilman Hickey, I served on a board called the Resolution Dispute. Many of you use that too. And we were, I think, Worth County, Franklin County, Saragordo County, Winnebago County, and Hancock County were all part of that. And only one time did Mason City contribute to it. But Mason City used it probably as much as anybody else did. And nobody from the other side or the other team complained about funding. We wouldn't give them a dime. I think the largest contributors was Franklin County, Hampton. They contributed way more. So I mean, that's a two-way street if you know what's gone on in the last 20 years. I'm very impressed with Director Foster and his commission for sponsoring a bill and recognizing that regionalization is a big part, and that the trends are that, when you're a community of 28,000 people and your neighbor to the north is the smallest county in the state of Iowa, that it only makes sense that probably some of those people work in Mason City and some of those people are discriminated against in Mason City. So, I don't want to cut anybody out. I also will say this. Years ago when we had this discussion, and this has gone on for decades actually, I asked a question one time. I said, how many cases do you really work with? And I was told that for every 10 that come there, they throw about 8 of them out at the time. Is that still a close figure today? They research it and say, no, it's a personality issue, it's driven motivation by money, or they want to get even, it just doesn't add up. So they're not just solely and only looking at the person who's made the complaint, but they also look at the other two sides. Their side, this side, and the truth. And they try to get as close to that as they can. So I was very impressed with that. And somebody made a comment here, and I think, Mayor, in your comments tonight, you said that you actually charged, I believe, that the commission was abusive to its clients. And I want a copy of what you read tonight. That's how I took it anyway, that you were abusive. Is that how you took it? Yeah, that you were abusive to the clients. So that is a elected official over here, and I think if Mr. Meyer knows what Liberty Interest is, that could impact your commission with a comment like that.
Exactly.
So I would research that too, and that's a big finger pointing issue from elected officials. So I applaud the work that you do, and this didn't have to be like this at all. And young man, pride's a terrible thing.
Thanks, Councilman Weaver. How about Ms. Solberg?
The constant personal attacks here are just getting a little bit uncalled for. And I value the commission. It's not that I don't. And numerous times, and people have said here that we're up here to cut human rights out. We're not up here to do that at all. Councilman Turnquist said earlier that really offends me. You know, why are you putting words in my mouth that I have never, ever, ever said? Ever. Not once. It's true that Mason City pays their taxes, or not taxes, but wages and benefits. Where are these other communities at in this, folks? They're using our resource, but not paying any wages and benefits to these people. I don't know, I just don't want to get into micromanagement. I don't even like that this issue is on the table tonight. I just don't even think it belongs in our packet. Our city attorney has said over and over again here that it's for the citizens, or, Mason City people be on this commission. Yes, you might own a house in Mason City. You live in Plymouth. Do you get to vote in Mason City? No. You don't. Bend the rules, bend the rules, bend the rules. If you want to change where these committee members are coming from, bring it forth to us, let us vote on it as a council, and we can go forth. We're not the ones that did this. We're trying to obey the code that's sitting out there right now. I applaud the mayor for what he's trying to do, what's right here. You've got to understand that the rules are the rules. Interpretations, yes, there can be many of them, but I think it's pretty black and white here myself. I mean, it's right here. Our city attorney has given us his opinion. I believe the council approved that language in the ordinance for a reason, which was years ago. The customary practice is for members of any city board or commission to live in Mason City. My opinion is based on the current wording of the code, which was adopted by the city council and can be changed by the council at any time. And that was by Tom Meyer, again, on February 2nd. Thank you.
Well, for the record, somebody who just, I believe, got off the commission last year is a relative of mine, lived in Rock Falls the whole time she was on the commission, and she was on for many years, I don't know how many. But it has not been followed up to this point to begin with. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Rogers. All right. Can I read the motion?
It's an amendment.
Yeah.
Clarify what the motion is in support of filling the current vacancies on the Human Rights Commission, and that those names be brought forward on the March 1st, 2011 council meeting.
Good.
But correction, aren't we voting on? We're not voting. We're voting on the amendment, which is just at the next March 1st meeting.
Well, we just made it.
Wait,
We just
right.
amended it.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to make sure everybody understands, because amendment is.
Are we able to do that as a council, to direct you to do that?
You would have to ask.
I'm just curious.
And do we have the time, because this has to go through the commission for vote? Do they even have a meeting before the first one?
We'll just do Mr. Hazy's response here.
Mayor, council, the appointments are at the discretion of the mayor. Wait until March 15th. Well, truthfully, there's not much you can do. That's the truth. You're showing, you're expressing your wishes to him. You want to get it going. Again, the code is adopted by the city council. The 6 of you decide the code. So if you're unhappy with it, the majority can change the code. Whether it's legal opinions or anything, I gave my opinion. I'm sorry it's being taken personal by people, but that's my opinion on the code. Again, this body can change it at any time, just as they can the nominating process. So, but your motion alone, if there's nobody on the agenda March 1st, is there a remedy? No, not at this time.
Okay, well, with that, I just hope that we can work together, come to some resolution, and get this issue resolved as timely as possible. Thank you.
I think that's the whole point of the vote tonight, is to try and tell the mayor as a council, we want to move this forward. Thank you.
Let's move on, let's move on. Jeez.
All right. Got a motion?
Marsters,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hickey,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Solberg,
I don't believe this should be even be in the packet, so no.
Tornquist.
No.
Motion carries. Thank you very kindly.
My name is Sandra Savantes. I live at 1213 6th Street Southwest. My whole feeling on this thing is people. Do you understand we are talking about human beings? We are talking about people's rights. I don't care about the money. I don't care about any of that. I am talking about a person that is standing here that because of the color of my skin or how old I am or maybe I don't know enough or whatever can be held against me, and because of how we're all about this, that doesn't matter. It's on who has the power and how they want to use that power. It's not about the power. I don't care about the power. We are talking about individual people here that have rights. And we're losing focus on that. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, picky. I don't care about that. The bottom line is we're talking about individuals that are being taken advantage of because they may not know the laws. Okay? I'm standing here as somebody that is just a person that lives in a little house, that drives a little car, that just wants my rights. I don't care how anybody feels about money or any of that, and I know things have to be funded. I'm not saying that. But we are losing focus on the fact here, people, that we need to think. Just take a minute, take a deep breath, and please think. Think. We are talking about individuals. Your sons, your daughters, your mothers, your dads, individuals. This is what it's about. And please, please, do not lose focus on that.
Sure.
I won't finish my prepared speech. I just want to make a few comments here. The mayor and I just agreed that he's going to meet with me and we're going to get this thing resolved. I don't like this any better than anybody. You know, I've been doing this job 39 years and I've never gone through this sort of an exercise with any mayor. Never. And I'm not saying that to be pejorative. I'm saying that it disturbs me, because this commission is a hard-working organization. Now, Councilmember Solberg, you said you put in an application. When did you put an application in? And did you bring it to my attention that you had?
Yes, I personally gave it to you, and it was, we're not supposed to respond.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
Oh, I can't talk to her?
This isn't set up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought I could add. That's all right. So I'll find out from you later, because I don't remember you putting in an application. But if you didn't get a call from us, it's because we had to give it to the mayor, whoever the mayor was at the time, and if the mayor didn't bring it forward, you know, and tell us why the mayor wasn't bringing it forward, because there's a lot of applications that come in and we don't see them. And the applications that we do see, we will take a look at. Now, we get a lot of folks who say, I want to be on the commission, and because of the time that let me just say this real quick. Last year alone, the commissioners collectively put in 1,100 of their own hours. This is work hours they get off work, or vacation, or whatever it may happen to be. They're a working commission. That's why we can't have someone come on this commission just thinking it's a rubber stamp outfit, and we're going to sit there and once a month, and that's going to be the end of it. They're going to have to come in and put in the time. The other issue that I want to raise about putting people on this commission is that if they're not willing to learn what the system is, they shouldn't be on the commission. And as I read in the early part of my statement, the individuals have to have integrity. They can't come in with a bone to pick with anybody. And once we find out they have a bone to pick with somebody, they're not going to be participating in anything on the commission. So You know, I just want to lay that out there. The last, I'll shut up. We do get money from the Iowa Civil Rights Commission on these cases that are outside of our jurisdiction. When they come in and they file, we send the case to the state sends us money for those cases. So all of this stuff I'm hearing about, I'm not talking to you, Councilmember Hickey, all this stuff about people outside the community, people outside of the community call and ask other departments for different information. I don't think we're any different. If I have information on a labor issue, a wage collection issue, I send individuals to Des Moines. I don't think that we should be charging those individuals because they wanted information. We're a government agency, and that's what we're all about. Thank you.
Director?
Yeah, my name is Kathy Lockley, 1444 East State, Mason City. I'm the chair of the Human Rights Commission. And just to clarify, we get federal money and we get state money for those cases that are outside of our jurisdiction. We primarily operate in Cerro Gordo County, but we do take other cases and we're reimbursed for that. Ms. Solberg said that, to me just now, when I went up to talk to her, that she doesn't like the taxpayers paying for the service, well, the people who get wages under the funding of the Mason City. Well, funding for those wages and benefits also comes from federal and state dollars. So it isn't just Mason City dollars that support this commission. And we are a broad-based commission. We are a working commission, and there are many, many other cities in not Mason City, in the state of Iowa, and across the nation that don't have working boards. They're paid staff. We are volunteers. We give freely of our time. Thank you.